Hey Mysterions, I'm Shay.
And I'm Jen.
And this is Crimes, Cryptids, and Controversies.
This is a true crime and paranormal podcast. Today we're talking about Lori Vallow.
And this is one that I fell down a rabbit hole. It's going to be a full-ass miniseries, so just buckle up for that.
Oh, we're going to do a miniseries, huh?
Yeah, little
All
did
right.
you know.
Well, we like to post every week, but sometimes we get a little excited and we might post more than once a week. So don't forget to subscribe and keep up with our random episodes. With that being said, let's explore.
Lori Noreen Cox was born into a devout religious home. Specifically, they were members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, also known as LDS. She grew up living by the word of the gospel and keeping the Book of Mormon close to her heart. 3 kids, 4 marriages, and 1 doomsday prophet later, Lori had devolved into a murderous and paranoid mindset. She was convinced that the world was going to end in July, and the only way that she allegedly felt that she could protect her children was to murder them. The road to the demise of her children is wrought in blood and conspiracy, and, as the case is still ongoing, I'm sure that this is just the tip of the iceberg. But first,
news break. So, Shay, have you heard about these 2 boys in Iowa that are being accused of murdering their Spanish teacher over their grade?
What? I'm laughing because I'm like, wait, what? Not the murder part, but...
Yeah, I mean, apparently they didn't make a good grade in the Spanish class, and it's holding the GPA down, so
Just flunk. It's fine.
I mean, they're in court, so I don't want to say they did it. They're being accused of it.
It is alleged at this point.
Correct. So there's Willard Chaden Miller, 17 years old of Fairfield, Iowa. And then there is the Spanish teacher was Nohema Graber. She's 66.
Aw.
I know, it's pretty sad. And then Jeremy Goodale is 17 of Fairfield. They're both facing first-degree murder charges. Of course, they're doing the cases separately. However... the mother of one of the teenagers, who was 16 when he started being asked by the police what happened, has now told the court that she did not understand the consent that she signed because she had the wrong glasses on, and that her child was 16 and shouldn't have been able to sign a Miranda to waive his rights to a lawyer, and that she was being misled and misguided on the fact of what they were really doing, and that the father wasn't even involved. So she's been in court talking to the judge about that, and I have multiple opinions on that because I don't think there should be any 16-year-old in this country who can sign a piece of paper to waive their Miranda rights. I don't care what the charge is.
I thought you had to have your Miranda rights anyway. Like, you, even as an adult, I didn't think you could sign them away.
I mean, I guess I don't really understand why a 16-year-old can do that. I don't care what the charge is because it is a charge.
Yeah.
He's not guilty, so I don't feel like if we have children that we don't let make any other adult decisions, regardless of what the crime is, I just feel like they are a child, so there should be a parent there, or there should be a guardian, or there should be an attorney. There should be somebody there. How many times have we seen teenagers admit to things that they didn't do?
Yeah, West Memphis Free.
Exactly.
I meant to say 3, but Free came out.
I knew what you meant. I was there. We were in the same vibe. I gotcha. So now they've talked to the mother, and the defense has until November 21st to file a final brief on the suppression hearings, and the state has until November 28th. So basically trying to suppress this teenager's statements from being heard in court. The trials won't be until March of 2023 for Miller in Council Bluffs, Iowa. And then Goodale's is scheduled for December 5th in Davenport, Iowa, but he filed for a continuance, so he'll probably be next year also.
I kind of don't blame him. If my friend was getting a continuation, I'd be like, what the fuck, bro?
And probably he wants to see what happens.
Oh,
so
yeah.
His attorneys, because they're doing them separate. Of course, the attorneys for Goodale are going to want to see what happens to the attorneys for Miller. So I think this will be a back and forth.
Kind of like a tit for tat. Let's see.
Well, the second person tried always benefits from seeing what happens to the first one.
It's like the younger child. How did my older sister fuck up? So I cannot do that.
It's crazy to me that this lady lost her life over a grade.
Yeah.
If that's really what happened, because as we said, this hasn't went to trial. These boys are not guilty yet.
We need to see like all the evidence, all the facts.
Yeah, so we're going to cover this one.
Yeah, we are.
So towards the end of the year, or in the spring, apparently, we'll be covering this story. Watch your
back.
kids, talk to your kids.
Tell them.
They get so focused on meeting parents' expectations and making that GPA to get into that Harvard or that Yale, that this kind of thing can happen to anybody's child.
Just buy their way in, like the Varsity Blues scandal. You'll be fine.
Oh boy.
Anyway, moving on to today's story.
So now into the early life. Lori Noreen Cox was born on June 26, 1973, in San Bernardino, California, to parents Janice Cox and Barry Cox. The Coxes already had 2 older children, named Alex and Stacy, and would later round out the family unit of 5 with Lori's 2 younger siblings, Adam and Summer. Off the bat, Lori was born into a family that wasn't the most truthful bunch. There were records that showed Barry's battles with the IRS began in the late 1980s, and in 1998, he admitted to using false statements to avoid paying federal income taxes for the years 1988, 1989, and 1990. Barry once wrote a book called How the American Public Can Dismantle the IRS.
It's like $12 on Amazon, by the way, if you want it.
Goodness. He goes into detail about how he and Janice have accrued $20,000 in back taxes and provides readers with strategies to avoid paying taxes because he disagrees with taxes and thinks they are unlawful and that the IRS is a rogue agency. Apparently, Barry decided that the true number was a little too high to publish in his book. But court documents came out stating that he actually owes closer to $300,000 in back taxes to the IRS and ended up being reprimanded by the Arizona State Bar for representing himself as a lawyer and advertising his services as a legal document writer in November 2018. Okay, 20,000 is a big difference from 300,000.
Mm-hmm.
All right, let's get that straight. Boy,
Yeah.
that's a huge difference. Even penalties can't add up from 20 to 300.
Yeah.
Just checking. Lori and her siblings were all raised in the LDS church, and Lori's mother noticed that Lori took quickly and enthusiastically to the scripture. Lori had a notably suspicious relationship with her older brother Alex, who plays a huge role in this case. And from a young age, people noticed that he was very much the kind of brother who would ask how high when Lori told him to jump, and that Alex had a strange preoccupation with Lori and would do anything for her. Lori attended Eisenhower High School in Rialto, California from 1987 to 1991 and was known to be smart, popular, and friendly. However, Lori's mother Janice was said to be very critical of Lori's appearance, which translated to Lori becoming a little self-absorbed, trying to make sure she looked perfect at all times. Quote, "I just thought she was just a Barbie doll. She was a doll," end quote, her childhood friend Bernadette Flores Lopez previously told Inside Edition Digital. Quote, "She was just really, really friendly. Not overly friendly, but she was just really sweet. I was just so excited to get to know her," end quote.
So it's like the deception started so early for her. She was kind of fucked from day one.
Yeah. Lori participated in the cheer squad, and her fellow classmates described how it was a welcoming atmosphere in the Cox's home. Her cheer squad spent a ton of time at Lori's house, going swimming and hanging out. One childhood friend had a different perspective on the welcome vibes in Lori's home, mainly stemming from the weird feeling she got from the relationship between Lori and her older brother Alex, specifically the weird fixation that Alex seemed to have with Lori. Quote, "When Lori and I were in the pool, he was always watching us, and I didn't like that," end quote, Rose remembered of Alex. There were a few more unsettling allegations that Lori had made around 7th grade, where she told the same friend that Alex had been making sexual advances on her. But this confession happened only once, and after that, Lori clammed up and never spoke of it to this friend again. Lori also did not seem to have any boyfriends during her high school experience until she was a senior. She seemed to be more interested in school and sports and hanging out with her girlfriends. It was said that Lori did not have much of a life plan outside of the LDS church, and in high school spoke of going to Brigham Young University and going on her mission for a few years to serve the church. According to an interview provided by Alex Cox's ex-wife, when Lori was about 18 or 19, she ran away and got married to her high school sweetheart, Nelson, which was in 1992. Nobody in the family seemed to approve of Nelson, and one of Lori's high school friends speculated that it was because he was not part of the LDS faith. And when she returned back home, she was allegedly forced to divorce her first husband, and they were legally divorced by 1992. So they were married and divorced in the same year.
Yes, ma'am. I think it was like 6 months difference.
Wow.
Yeah.
So she left the home.
Yeah, she fully ran away. It was like, fuck you guys, I'm getting married.
Broke out, came back, and they were like, get divorced or you ain't coming back. So she did. I guess that was like the mandatory thing to happen to be able to come back in the home.
Yeah, it seemed like a prereq.
Wow, rough, man. 1992 was the same year that Alex married a woman named Debbie, who had a lot to say about his uncomfortable family dynamics.
So Debbie, it turns out her legal name is Mary, but for anonymity purposes, for years they had her as Debbie, but she's officially come out and said her name's Mary. I'm not just just like outing this poor woman.
Debbie told a detective with the Chandler Police Department in Arizona that Alex and Lori would simulate sex acts in front of her and the rest of the family. What?
Oh, keep going.
Quote, for example, he would pick her up and she would wrap her legs around his waist and he would kind of bounce her up and down on himself in front of me and they would moan and simulate sex acts, end quote. Quote, he also talked about how she was hot and he sexualized her quite a bit. He did touch her breast and things, end quote, Debbie said. Wait, this was in front of the parents too?
Okay, yes. So I listened to the full recording with her calling the Chandler PD. She said that Lori's parents actually would have some sort of like pissing contest and be like, we have this kind of weird sex and we have sex this many times in a week and all this like crazy shit. And it was like a competition between the parents and Alex with his little wife to see who was like the most sexually promiscuous.
And Lori was like 18 or 19?
Mm-hmm.
So he's 5 years older, so he's only like 23, 24, somewhere around there. This is crazy. And they're religious, like that's not in any religion I know of.
It's very weird.
I could be wrong. If there is a religion that does that, then please notify me.
It's a lot.
It's really sick.
Like I said from the beginning, things are really messed up for Lori.
Well, it makes you wonder how much it really did happen before that we don't know about.
Mm-hmm. But then there's also stuff later where I'm like, where are you making some of this up? Not Debbie, but Lori. We'll get there.
Okay. The strange dynamic was what led Debbie to leave Alex just months after their marriage, she said. Debbie claimed that she once confronted Alex over his apparent affinity for Lori, asking if they were having sex.
Damn it, I thought I copied and pasted it. He got mad. He was like, no, why would you think that, you sick freak? And she's like, wait, what? You're the one bouncing her on your pelvis. What are you talking about? You're the weirdo.
I would ask.
Yeah. And the fact that he's like, ew, weirdo.
That's crazy.
Girl. So next, we have Lori's second husband, William LaGoya. So she married him on October 22nd, 1995 in Travis County, Texas. During their marriage, they had their son named Colby Ryan, who's actually in a shitload of hot water right now.
Oh, really?
For sexual abuse allegations against his ex-wife.
Oh, boy.
Yep.
Wait, sexual allegation against his ex-wife?
Mm-hmm.
While they were married or while they're divorced?
While they were separated. So they weren't divorced, but they were separated.
Let's get into it later.
Yeah.
Let's keep our mysterions going here.
I know. We'll talk about it later, guys. Sorry. They had Colby. He was born April 8th, 1996, and only 3 years later, on February 25th, 1998, was the divorce finalized between Lori and William.
3 years. We're going on a 3-year tangent here.
Yeah. She really likes her 3-year itch. Again, the family did not approve of William, but they loved Colby, so they tolerated William. Now, we have a quick little detour into the early life of a woman named Melanie Pawlowski. This sounds random, kind of is. She kind of amps up later in the story, but we're just, again, chronologically doing a little background check on her. So, things got pretty bad for the Cox family in 1998 when Lori's 31-year-old sister Stacy died suddenly due to a slew of medical problems. Stacy was only 31 years old, and she had a 9-year-old daughter at the time named Melanie, who was living with Melanie's father at the time of Melanie's mother's death. Allegedly, Stacy had spent most of her life battling some sort of illness or another, like she was chronically sick, basically. In fact, when Melanie was born, Stacy almost died giving birth to Melanie due to a deep vein thrombosis blood clot that Stacy had developed. That is important later, the whole blood clot thing, so we're going to hold on to that nugget. I specifically highlighted it in my notes for a reason.
Okay.
A few years after the birth of her daughter, Stacy ended up developing type 1 diabetes and gastroparesis, which essentially meant that she didn't really have the ability to absorb the proper nutrients, and she was constantly in and out of doctors' offices, hospitals, all of that, and that put an enormous amount of stress on Melanie's parents' relationship, which could have been the cause of Melanie's father's alleged infidelity.
Yeah, I can see that. Because,
yeah.
I mean, when you have gastroparesis, you're just always in pain and nothing you eat gets digested. So it's like almost like a paralysis of your belly.
Oh, paresis.
If you want to call it that.
Oh.
Yeah. So, you know, you just don't move the food along.
Oh.
Right. So it just kind of sits there and it is life-threatening.
Would it like rot too? Because it's stagnant?
Yeah. So like lots of people get infections. Lots of people who have gastroparesis have to have TPN through a IV or a PICC line in their arm. because you think about eating food and yours digests and goes down.
Yeah,
Theirs
hopefully.
can get stuck, and then you can end up having a surgery and a colostomy and all kinds of stuff. Like
Not
you
that big
said, I
deal.
could see that someone who's not really bonded in a relationship could be like, I'm tired of this.
Yeah.
Like, it's a lot.
That's bad news bears right there. For a while, Melanie lived with her grandparents, aka Lori's parents, Barry and Janice, in California, while Stacy was trying to recover from her multitude of medical issues, and Melanie's dad was traveling a lot for his job at that time. When Melanie was still young, her mom felt healthy enough that Stacy, Melanie, and Melanie's father moved to Seattle when Melanie's dad secured a job there.
That's kind of weird.
I know.
Because if you have gastroparesis, a chronic condition, and you have a lot going on, it's weird that you would move somewhere where you don't have
a lot of stress,
a lot of support. But who's going to help her when she's sick? Who's going to help her daughter when he's traveling and she's sick?
Yeah, I have no idea. I don't know what the thought process was. I almost wonder if it was like, let's move for a clean slate.
Maybe. Like to the infidelity, like start over.
Oh, shit.
Maybe.
Yeah, that's a good point, too.
Because sometimes women think, anybody thinks. I shouldn't say women.
Yeah.
Anybody thinks, like, let's move to a new place, get you away from here, and start over.
Good point. Well, they moved.
Long story
short.
Pretty far.
Yeah. Oh, my God. Yeah. So it gets really sad for a second. I mean, this whole thing's sad, but when Melanie was 6, her dad took Melanie and said that they were going to get gas, but they never came home to her mom.
Oh.
Her dad turned off the power in the home, took all of Stacy's credit cards, Stacy's planner, and basically abandoned Stacy in the family's home because he figured that she was super sick to the point that she couldn't take care of herself.
So just leave her?
Uh-huh.
What?
Yeah, it was basically, you're a burden, I'm out skis, let's go.
Then why even move her to Seattle? Because who's going to help her?
Yeah, I wonder if there was enough forethought where it was like, oh, let's leave her there so I can leave, and she will struggle because she is stuck.
Wow.
I know,
That's
I don't know.
Really super cold.
Yeah, it is. Especially if that was the genuine thought process and he wasn't just...
I hope it's not.
Yeah, we're going to pretend it wasn't for her mental health. So at this point, Melanie and her father hid in a hotel room for a few months. And as time progressed, Melanie's father seemed to go out of his way to cut communication with the Cox side of the family. Melanie now was like, oh, that was weird. Not from the outside looking in. No, it's not. I would also cut off the ties if I were her dad.
Yeah, that's difficult to say.
Yeah. When Stacy passed away, it was Lori, Melanie's aunt, who reached out to Melanie and said, quote, your mom's in a coma and she's probably not going to make it, unquote.
Wow.
Melanie and her father flew out to see Stacy one more time while Stacy was in the hospital, and during this trip, Melanie remembers that her dad would not allow Melanie to see or talk to anybody on the Cox side of the family. When Melanie was around 15, she found her Uncle Adam, which remember is Lori's brother, and started reconnecting with Lori's side of the family. It is important to give Melanie the overview now because she becomes a really big part of this case later. And without her kind of like sorted background, it would be a little hard to understand why she matters.
So Adam is Melanie's uncle, right? Lori's brother.
Yep.
Okay, just making sure I have it right.
It gets confusing because there are two Melanies in this. There's Melanie Pulowski and Melanie Gibb. Melanie Gibb's the best friend. Alex and Adam, those are the brothers. So it gets really
Adam, Alex.
up.
That's why I was making sure I had it right. Adam, Alex.
Yeah, it gets really convoluted very quickly. So I recommend a notepad if you guys have one hanging around.
Well, it's good to go through each person individually. That way we have to...
Yep.
Okay. So, Mysterions, we're going to round out this episode with that brief dive into the life of Melanie because she's a big, important character later on. And we're trying to go character by character since there's so many so that we make sure we keep everything straight. In the next episode, we're going to start touching on Lori's next 2 very controversial marriages.
But for now, don't forget, you can follow us on Instagram at CX3_podcast. DM us on there. If you have any extra information that you want us to include in the next episode, that'd be cool. We have our email, cx3podcast@gmail.com, and we have our website, cx3podcast.com, where we're going to be posting our blog, our transcripts. You can listen to each episode. You can find our sources, like the whole shebang. It's all there. Otherwise, we'll see you in the next episode. Bye.
See you guys later.